What's up, guys? Welcome back to another freezing cold day here in the Northeast. Got 30 degrees on the dash, just giving the car a chance to warm up here. But as soon as we get going here, we're going to start talking about why really any car enthusiast should consider having an E90, E92, E93, any BMW from this generation in their driveway at some point. So let's just give it a moment and we'll get talking. Before we dive into this too much, I will preface what I'm about to say with the fact that yes, I am a car enthusiast, but also yes, I am a BMW enthusiast. I have historically been a fan of the brand. I have historically liked the products that they have come out with. The newer ones, I don't know, we might talk about a little bit of how I feel about those at some point in this video. But yes, I'm a fan of the brand, so I will be a little bit biased, but I do have experience with a lot of their different cars. So let's dive into that a little bit. Reasons why car enthusiasts love this platform, why I love this platform. So one of the biggest reasons an enthusiast might want an E90 generation BMW is because you can make a very good argument that this generation BMW, this generation 3 Series, is one of the last truly analog, last ultimate driving machine, last enthusiast-focused 3 Series that BMW has come out with. The following generation after this, the F30 and the associated 4 Series for the coupes, they just weren't quite as driver-focused. Not quite as analog. With this car, you get the nice hydraulic steering rack. I love this steering rack. This is by far, in my opinion, the greatest steering rack that BMW has ever produced in the E90 generation. It has phenomenal feedback. The weight to it is perfect. There's no slop in it. Dead center is exactly where you want it to be, and then anything off of that is just, you're quickly jutting side to side. The nose of the car is very eager to dive in as soon as you put input on that steering wheel. And with the new electric racks, you can have some of that quick input because they can change the steering ratios and stuff like that. The electronic racks do allow for that, but you just don't. They're dead. They're dead. You don't feel anything. With this, I know exactly what the front tires of the car are doing at all times. I can feel every imperfection. If they start tram lining, I know exactly why it is. It's a phenomenal steering rack. The interior, it's driver focused, it's simple, and the new interiors aren't bad, but they're starting to get more and more cluttered, and understandably that's just kind of the way of the world, having more and more technology in the cars, and I'm not gonna complain about that. That's a lot of that stuff is really nice to have, and once you are in the car and living with the car, you really appreciate it. However, it's just not the same as how it used to be, I guess. I sound like an old man complaining about new people, young people stuff, but it's nice to have a very basic interior where you're not being distracted by too much and you can focus just on driving if that's what you want to do. Another part of that is the engines. So historically, BMW is famous for their naturally aspirated inline-6 engines, which is phenomenal. Everybody loves those engines, and this generation is sort of the last opportunity for you to get that. I'm in a 335i, so this is a turbocharged engine, turbocharged inline-6. But if you wanted like a truly naturally aspirated 6-cylinder, the 328 from this generation is still a phenomenal car. It still gives you great power. You're getting over 200 horsepower, which I know by today's standards isn't a whole lot, but really for everyday driving and for an enthusiast who wants to be able to use all the power and push the car to its limit, it's still a decently peppy car, and it's a very, very enjoyable driving experience being able to use that engine, not have to deal with the turbochargers. It still sounds good if you put an exhaust on it. And if you look at the M3 version, you're getting, in my opinion, one of the coolest sounding engines ever. Spare the conversation of bringing exotics into this, but that German built V8 engine that they put in the E92, E90 M3, it's a phenomenal engine. A little low on torque, yes, that's usually the argument, but it's great. It sounds glorious. All you want to do is just use all the RPMs, rev it out. Phenomenal, highly enjoyable, driver-focused engine. Going on from here, everything's going to be turbocharged. The next generation of 3 Series, really across the range for BMW, it's all turbocharged engines. Even the base ones, it's turbocharged 4 cylinders. You move up to, like, now you have like the 440s and stuff like that. That's going to be a turbocharged 6 cylinder, and the same thing with the M3, M4, and all the others. It's turbocharged 6 cylinders. If you move up in the range, you might get a turbocharged 8 cylinder. But BMW's not making naturally aspirated cars anymore. The E90 generation 3 Series was really your last opportunity to be able to get one of those cars if you really want them. Now, one might want to make an argument that the E46 generation 3 Series was the last truly driver-focused, truly analog BMW, and that's certainly a fair argument. The E90 maybe sort of bridges the gap a little bit because there's a turbocharged option. It has gotten a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, but I think it favors more so the analog driver-focused side than it does kind of the way that they're building the cars now, especially like F30 and up generations of 3 Series. Now, I mentioned size, and I want to stay on that for a moment. This E92, in my opinion, is a good size. It's not too big, it's not too small. The size is usable, but it's small enough that it's tossable. If you go to E46, that's a really nice size if you get an E46 coupe. But this one, it's still small enough where it feels tossable. It is starting to get a little bit heavy. These cars, I think they're around 3,500 pounds curb weight. So it's not what I would consider a light car. It's certainly no Miata. But again, when you look, like, I think the new 4 Series that came out with its pig nose and everything, it's a 2-ton car. You have put a driver in it, and I'm pretty sure it's like a 4,000-pound car, and it's huge. It's significantly larger, wider, and longer than this car. And when you compare it to like an E46 or even an E36, they're crazy big. These cars just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And in my opinion, the E90 generation is the last appropriately sized 3 Series if you're looking at it from an enthusiast perspective. So another reason on the enthusiast side of things is we'll talk about tunability, engine options. So I mentioned it a little bit before, but with the M3, you can get a naturally aspirated V8. With the kind of mid-tier 3 Series from the E90 generation, which would be kind of what I'm in now, a 335i, you're getting either a twin turbo or a single turbo, depending on whether you have the N54 or the N55. But you're getting a turbocharged 6-cylinder, and then lower down you can get a 328, which is just a naturally aspirated 6-cylinder. That gives you a lot of options for a platform that the bones of which are really good, and that the size, and what I mean by that is the size is really good, the handling is really good, unless you have like an X-Drive. I have some complaints about the X-Drive suspension. I'll get into more of that in probably another video. But generally the handling is pretty good out the box from the factory. You're getting the bones, good bones of a good driver's car. Then you can kind of make your pick between the engines, depending on what your style is. If you can afford an M3 and you like, and I don't know who doesn't like the naturally aspirated V8 in that car, then absolutely, that's a phenomenal option. That's a great car, a great engine. If you're more of a tuner, you like kind of like people who like turbos, then the 335 is a phenomenal option. Everybody talks about the N54 and N55 until the B58 came out as being like the new super engine, new 2JZ, because it is just so tunable. You get the early ones, the early N54s, that everything's forged. They can handle insane amounts of power. The tuner community for it is massive. There's endless options for those engines if that's your thing. And if that's not your thing, and you're more of a traditionalist, and you just want a naturally aspirated BMW-inspired 6-cylinder, you get the 328. You have that option. that's available to you. I myself, I usually tend to favor naturally aspirated engines. Funnily enough, I do drive a 335i. I just enjoy the sound of the naturally aspirated engines, how high up you can rev them depending on what you're talking about. But that tends to be more in my wheelhouse. However, I'm not going to take away the torque, the insane torque of these turbocharged engines, especially in this 335i. It's phenomenal. Love it. You gotta love it. Downshift here as this person turns off. Oh, just a wall of it. It's so enjoyable. It's always there with this car. It's always there. That torque is just ready. It's great. Now, one last point on the enthusiast side of things. Yes, these cars are available in manual, and I will give BMW credit. They still do offer that for the most part on most of their models. You can still get the car in M3, M4, M2 in manual cars. So I do have to give them credit there, because a lot of manufacturers have moved away from that, which is unfortunate for people who want to have that option. But yes, you can get an E90 in manual, and I would definitely recommend it. I talked about it in my first video. Where this manual, or this automatic transmission is a really great option, really great automatic transmission. Ooh, we got a Ferrari FF up in front of us. Maybe you guys can hear that V12 at some point here. So yes, the automatic transmission that's available in these, it's going to be easier to find if you're looking to purchase one of these. It's a good transmission. I'm not too upset that I ended up getting the car, but I would prefer the manual, and they're out there, they're getting hard to find, but you can do it if you're patient enough. Now, there's another side of things why you might consider owning one of these cars, and that's the everyday aspect of it. For me, this car is my daily driver, and it does that job really well, while providing me with a car that's both fun and enjoyable for an enthusiast to drive, but also really practical and does the everyday errand running, anything that I need from it really well. And it's not always easy to find a car that's a good blend like that. For example, this car, it's a coupe, it's the E92, but it does have 2 seats in the back. They are usable seats. I wouldn't want to throw people back there for extended long car trips, but they are certainly usable. You have plenty of leg room, as far as coupes go at least, and you have your own climate control and stuff back there. It's not a bad place to be. The trunk, plenty of storage room in the trunk. The trunk is a really nice size. The seats fold down, so when I go snowboarding, I can put my snowboard through. It fits in, no problem. If you have any large items like that, they're gonna fit in. It's not gonna be a problem. This car is really a great everyday driver, and I get to drive it and do my everyday stuff while enjoying the process, because it's a good driver's car. Another thing, the car looks great. It looks great. I think these E90s, especially the E92s, I'm very partial to E92. I think they look phenomenal. But I think they've aged really well. And this design, God forbid, don't get me started on the current design of the current 3 and 4 series with that pig nose grille that they put on there. But this design is, in my opinion, one of the best designs that BMW has come up with. Especially if you talk about the M3s, you talk about the coupes with the M Sport package, the sedans with the M Sport package. Those are all really good looking cars. In my opinion, pretty timeless design that's going to continue to look good. This is a 2013 model. At this point, it's now 2021. It's an 8-year-old car, and people look at it and they think that I spent way more money on it than I really did, because they think it's a way newer, way nicer car. Now, with all that being said, do I think these cars are going to appreciate? I don't know. Not necessarily. It depends on what you have. It depends on which model it is, kind of the options that it has. Certain ones, I think, yes, over time, they probably will appreciate. I don't know if these 335i's are never going to appreciate, in my opinion. There's just so many of them, and they do tend to have more reliability problems, making them less desired to own on the used market. So I don't think these E92s really, unless you're talking about like a low mileage coupe or sedan with a manual transmission, rear wheel drive, M Sport, factory M Sport package, that car will probably at least depreciate to a point and hold its value above the other ones, but that'll probably never appreciate. Now, if you're talking about the M3, if you get an M3 unmodified, lower miles, good condition, manual transmission, that car is eventually going to appreciate, because that's the last naturally aspirated M3. They're currently holding their values pretty well, and they're going to become desirable over time. I mean, you look at the E46 M3s, which they're crazy. They're crazy valuable right now. If you're looking for a manual transmission E46 M3, you're going to be spending, if it's in good condition with lower miles, you're going to be spending like 40-45 grand in some situations. You can get one for like 15-20 grand less than that with a little bit more miles in the SMG transmission. But if you want that perfectly optioned E46 M3, they've really appreciated at this point. They've become a very desirable car. So I do think that'll probably start happening probably sometime soon with the E92 M3s. And I don't know, that's something to consider if you have one of them. So yeah, that about covers everything that I think I wanted to go over. Let me know what you guys think. If you own one of these cars, like, what do you like about them? For me, it's the perfect blend of having an enthusiast car that I can go on the weekends like this, go for a nice drive on a nice back road, really enjoy the car. But during the week, it does everything that I need it to do for my everyday life, commuting somewhere if I need to go, running errands, storing stuff in it, carrying people around. It's a phenomenal in-between, and a lot of people want something like that can do a little bit of both. We can have goals, but not all of us can afford to have two cars at all times. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you own an E92, E90 generation BMW, let me know why you love your car. If you're thinking about purchasing one of these, let me know what made you kind of lean in this direction. End of the day, there's a lot of good options out there, but this certainly is a really good pick. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon, more on this platform. Next video is probably going to be about the current modifications that I have on this car. Alright guys, peace.